Some people just get it. They walk into a room and instantly know what looks good, what feels off, what works, what doesn't. Not just with design, with style, organization, presentation, even people. And then there are the rest of us, staring at the exact same thing, wondering, wait, what am I missing? Because somehow, some people can make cheap things look expensive, and other people can spend a fortune, and it still feels wrong. So what is this? Talent? Taste? Pattern recognition? A different kind of intelligence? Or are some people genuinely seeing something others cannot? Hello, hello! Welcome back to Smart AF, the show where we cut through the noise and give you the facts, straight up. The idea for this episode started from one of those completely normal conversations that somehow turns into an existential crisis. I was talking to my husband about my frustration over how my sister can do her own nails, eyebrows, grooming, all of it, and somehow it looks salon quality. Not just on herself, on other people too, and I cannot, even when I try. So I end up paying someone else to do it for me. I can watch the same tutorials, use the same tools, copy the same shapes, and somehow, mine still feels slightly off. Not terrible, just wrong. And my husband looked at me and said, "That sounds like a Smart AF episode." And honestly, he was right. Because the more I thought about it, the more I realized this is not really about nails. It is about something much bigger. Why do some people instantly see things other people completely miss? And obviously, your always fact-checked girl could not leave it there. So I started reading, researching perception, pattern recognition, aesthetics, skill development, visual intelligence. And the deeper I went, the more fascinating this became. Because humans are not just seeing the world, we are constantly interpreting patterns. And some people become incredibly sensitive to those patterns. That is why one person can instantly tell a room feels balanced, an outfit works, a logo looks cheap, a presentation feels awkward, or a conversation has weird tension, while someone else notices absolutely nothing. And I've experienced this with styling too. Because there have been times where I bought clothes I genuinely liked, and I would put the outfit together one way, and it looked fine. But then I would get feedback from someone who clearly had the eye for styling. And suddenly, tiny changes would completely transform the outfit. A different shoe, a front tuck, rolling the sleeves slightly, changing proportions, adding structure, removing one accessory instead of adding more. Same clothes, completely different result. And the wild part? Once someone pointed it out, I could suddenly see it too. Like my brain finally understood the pattern. And that is what really got me thinking. And here is the wild part. A lot of this happens subconsciously. Your brain is constantly scanning for symmetry, contrast, spacing, rhythm, proportion, consistency. Basically trying to answer one question. Does this feel right? And here is where the whole thing gets really interesting. Because people love saying, beauty is subjective. Everyone has different taste. There is no right or wrong. And yes, sometimes that is true, but not completely. Because humans consistently respond to certain patterns in very similar ways. Balance, symmetry, contrast, spacing, rhythm, proportion. Your brain is constantly scanning for these things whether you realize it or not. That is why some rooms instantly feel calming. Some logos feel cheap. Some outfits feel effortless. Some videos feel polished. And some people walk into a situation and immediately sense tension before anyone says a word. Their brain is detecting patterns. And according to researchers, a lot of this comes from something called pattern recognition. Your brain is basically trying to build shortcuts. The more exposure you have to certain environments, styles, systems, social cues, or creative decisions, the more your brain starts recognizing what works and what does not. And eventually, some people become incredibly sensitive to those patterns. That is why experts in completely different fields often sound weirdly similar. Chefs talk about balance, designers talk about balance, photographers talk about balance, stylists talk about balance. Even musicians talk about rhythm, tension, harmony, contrast. Different field, same brain mechanism. And this is where people get the whole thing wrong. They assume people with the eye are magically talented. Sometimes they are, but a lot of the time, they just trained their perception, consciously or unconsciously. Because the designer who notices tiny spacing problems has probably spent years staring at layouts. The stylist who instantly knows an outfit feels off has probably spent years noticing proportions, silhouettes, and visual balance. The organized person who creates systems effortlessly has trained themselves to recognize patterns of friction and chaos. And eventually, the brain starts predicting these things automatically. That is why beginners copy details, but experts feel relationships between details. And honestly, once I started researching this, I realized the eye is not just about aesthetics. It also shows up in business leadership, communication, editing, storytelling, even relationships. Some people can walk into a meeting and instantly feel this idea is not going to work. Not because they are psychic, because they have seen the pattern before. Some people can tell when a conversation feels performative, when branding feels forced, when confidence feels fake, when a video is trying too hard, when someone is over-explaining because they are insecure. Again, pattern recognition. And the scary part? A lot of highly skilled people cannot even fully explain how they know, because eventually the process becomes intuitive. Their brain has absorbed so many examples that it starts making rapid subconscious judgments before conscious reasoning catches up, which honestly explains why some people are amazing teachers and others are terrible at explaining what they do well, because some experts skip straight to instinct. And this also explains something else that is kind of uncomfortable, why some people improve very slowly, even when they are trying really hard. Because repetition alone does not automatically create skill. Awareness does. If you repeat the same mistake 500 times without noticing it, your brain is not refining the pattern. It is reinforcing it, which is why feedback matters so much, and why people with the eye can completely change your perspective with one tiny comment. Sometimes all it takes is someone saying, "The proportions feel off. That spacing is awkward. You added too much. The pacing drags here. That color competes with everything else." And suddenly your brain starts catching the pattern for itself. Not perfectly, but enough that you start noticing tiny differences you completely missed before. And honestly, I think that is what people mean when they say someone has the eye. Not magic, not superiority, sensitivity. Their brain became highly tuned to patterns most people move past without noticing. And honestly, I think all of us have areas where we naturally see patterns more clearly than other people. For some people, it is design. For others, it is numbers, music, organization, social dynamics, storytelling, business, art. The interesting part is not whether you were born with the eye, it is whether you train yourself to notice. Because once you start paying attention to patterns instead of just consuming things passively, your perception changes. And that changes everything. So now I want to know, what is something you instantly notice that other people seem completely blind to? And what is something other people seem naturally good at that you genuinely struggle to see? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this episode, subscribe to Smart AF, where we cut through the noise and give you the facts straight up. That's it for today's episode of Smart AF. And remember, making informed decisions is your right. So before you believe the hype, get Smart AF. Thanks for listening. If you know someone who needs this info, please share this video with them. If you found this interesting, a thumbs up and subscribe would mean a lot. And tap the bell so you never miss an update.